The following is a Comfortably Zoned Radio Network production.
We are back. A's Baseball, past, present, and future. I'm Ralph Tyko with the Comfortably Zoned Radio Network. And wow, what a show we have today. Jerry Feitelberg and Nancy Finley, the co-host and hostess, are here. How are you, Jerry? How are you, Nancy?
Great.
I'm doing great, but I got a slight cold. I covered the game Monday night at the Coliseum. It was a little colder than anticipated that night.
You don't even sound like it.
Well, Jerry doesn't know that I'm not really a doctor, but I can tell you to just drink a lot of liquids, and you'll be fine. You'll be fine.
Yeah.
And if you catch pneumonia, they can cure pneumonia. They can't cure a common cold. So, in a way, it could help you.
I'm thinking about that.
But
right.
you know I know a lot about drugs.
Yes, I do. And not illicit drugs. Jerry was the A's pharmacist for in the 90s and pharmacist of the year in California in 1995. Think about that, ladies and gentlemen, of the year in California.
The whole state.
Very proud of you for that, Jerry.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Congrats.
Okay.
And
before any further ado, I'm going to have Nancy introduce a most heralded guest, if you would.
Yes, I want to introduce Wes Stock, who was our coach in the Kansas City era, 1960s, and then was also with us in the 70s when we blasted out and just did what is hardly ever done now, consecutive World Series wins. 3 of them in a row. Yes, and I remember. I have pictures of Wes's little boys on riding our mascot, Charlie O the Mule.
Oh yeah, they love that.
Oh, they're so cute. They're adults.
Hey, welcome, Wes. Thank you for appearing.
Yes.
Thank you, and glad to be on here. But I gotta tell Nancy, I wasn't old enough to be a coach in Kansas City. I was still a player yet.
Oh my
God.
Okay.
Well, in fact, I got traded to Kansas City in '64 from Baltimore.
There you go.
Right. Now, that's what Ralph said.
I'm going to give you to Nancy and Jerry, and they're going to talk A's ball. But I want to talk baby boys. You came up. Paul Richards was the manager of Baltimore.
Yes, he was.
And he developed a crew of young pitchers. Steve Barber was one of them. And
Jerry Walker.
Jerry Walker. There was one more really. Chuck Estrada, was one.
Yep. Chuck Estrada. And how about Steve Barber?
Oh,
Steve Barber.
yes.
Was Jim Palmer?
Hey, how about Wes Stock?
But another young pitcher was Jerry Walker.
Yes. What did you glean from Paul Richards? He was the guru of his day.
Well, I look back and remember, and of course, I was a long reliever, and I think he was the heir of starting long relievers. He had myself and Dick Hall, and Billy Heff was the left-hander, older guy, and then the 2 old relievers. One was, of course, I had more fun with him, Hoyt
Stu Miller.
And Stu Miller was the other one.
Stu Miller.
Hello?
Hello?
Yeah, you there?
Yeah, I'm there. I got you.
Okay.
Who was the other one?
Stu Miller and Hoyt Wilhelm.
Oh, it was Stu Miller. Okay.
It was Stu, yeah. Yeah. The guy that we always said that.
When Wes, when you came to the A's at that time, we had just changed our uniform colors, right?
Oh yeah, I can remember going in the clubhouse, putting on this uniform in our locker, And then about 15 minutes before the game would start, Charlie would call from Chicago and tell the clubhouse band he wanted this top and this bottom. And we had to do that a few times in Oakland. They're doing that.
Oh yes, oh yeah, and he just knew what he wanted. Mm-hmm.
Hey Wes, last week I met a guy at the Coliseum that you may have played baseball with. His name is Rick Monday. He was the first choice.
Rick Monday was there?
Yeah, he was here with the Dodgers.
Yeah, great center fielder, and he came up, young guy could really run. And, and did a great job.
And more than that, wasn't he traded for Ken Holtzman?
Yeah.
I think he was, yeah. He was traded for Kenny because I had Kenny there. Came, I think, from the Chicago Cubs, right?
Right.
Yeah.
And what a pitching staff that was. What stands out in your mind about that pitching staff? You had Vida Blue, you had Holtzman, you had Hunter. Oh, my God. Darrell Knowles in the bullpen.
Knowles and Lindblad were the two left-handers in the bullpen. And of course, the great Raleigh Fingers was the stopper of all of everybody. But it was just a club of, they played to win, and Dick Williams, of course, was the manager there, and he was the type of guy, like if you had a man on second base and nobody out, you better learn how to get him over to third some way. Either hit that ball the other way, no long fly ball or something, but he would really get on players. Not one player, but if you didn't get him over, he would yell on the dugout, you got to get him over. In other words, he was telling everybody.
Mm-hmm.
That was the old Dodger way of doing things, and he came up as a Dodger. And unfortunately, we don't hear that in any dugout today. They don't want to get him over. They want to get him in with one swing or nothing. And
that's the uphill swing. It does, Reed. Funny you say that. But this past winter, or the past 2 months ago, we had a reunion down in Oakland of all those Bando, Rudy, Tennis, Claudel, North, and all, in their posse. And that's all they talked about what you had to do to win a game.
Mm-hmm.
And it was really interesting to listen to those guys. And of course, I end up asking a question, and I didn't realize he was that much liked. I thought he wasn't liked that much because he was tough on guys. It was Dick Williams. They all said Dick Williams taught them to play the game the way it should be played, and they all praised Dick Williams. I was really surprised.
Charlie really liked him as a friend too.
Is that right? I don't know Charlie, but I know Charlie, and the day Dick Williams quit, he told Charlie he was leaving. He thought Dick was going to New York. Of course, Charlie wouldn't let him because he still had another year in his contract, and he didn't manage, so he brought in Alvin Dark.
You know what? Williams gave his resignation about maybe 2 weeks prior to the end of the World Series, but we didn't announce those things. But but I think Charlie doing that was probably because of all the other stuff hitting the fan, and he felt like he wanted to have some control over something. But I remember Charlie told Dad he had become too close to Williams, in his own words, like friends, and he never let that happen with an employer-employee relationship. So he needed Dad to be the one that he needed to tell Williams he needed permission from, like, oh, well, let me ask my consultant, because he had stepped out. I mean, he couldn't be the one. It was really difficult. He liked Williams as a friend. So
okay. May I interrupt 1 second? Some of the audience may not know, when you refer to Dad, that's Charlie O's cousin.
Yes.
And like a brother, that's your dad, Carl.
Yes.
Finley.
Who ran everything in Oakland.
Right.
Charlie didn't have very many people working for him in the office.
That's right. That's right.
So Carl had to do a lot of that work.
That's right.
The A's have about 200 people now doing the work that Carl and 6 or 7 people did back in the 70s.
Well, Charlie's secretary,
Carolyn. Yes,
Carolyn was a very high on the list of doing things.
Yeah, she was in charge of hiring also. And then when she left, that actually started falling to me. And I couldn't do that. I couldn't do what she did.
But Charlie, don't let anybody say it different. Charlie still ran everything. He wanted everybody to know he was doing it.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. He Dad let people believe that, because when Charlie was happy, everything was nice and calm.
I can remember going in there, and I think he did a lot of good things for baseball. I can always remember he wanted to change the World Series to nighttime, so the working person could see the game on TV. He was one that he went to all the different colored shoes, the white shoes, and everything, and the different colored uniforms, stuff like that.
Later he said, when I said night, I didn't mean every night, because then it seemed to go the opposite, where a lot of the games were being held at night, not just World Series, but in general.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. But that's true. It helped the working person.
Yeah.
Hey, Wes, I forgot to ask you about one person who you had as a pitching coach in Modesto, and I know you go way back with him, and that's Pete Rickard, an old friend of mine.
Was that right? Of course, I pitched against Pete when he was in the Washington Senators.
Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely. Yep. And he came up with the Dodgers, if I'm not mistaken. And you two got together to help Modesto back in the days of the four aces, Van Poppel and Dressendorfer.
Another good one.
Oh,
yeah.
I'm just amazed.
But what I'd like to ask you about is under the Haas's, I thought they were very progressive. You guys hired a fellow by the name of Dr. Harvey Dorfman.
Harvey Dorfman, yep.
He was the late Harvey Dorfman.
A psychologist.
A sports psychologist, absolutely.
Right.
And the Haas's were progressive enough to realize the pressure that these kids were under, and they brought Harvey in, and I'm sure you were instrumental in that decision. And what it did is gave them counseling from a guy who was he wrote a book on baseball itself. He was not just a sports psychologist; he was an expert, and he could break it down to practicality. And I think he was with the team all year, if not just the home games. I think he traveled with you guys. Am I correct?
Sometimes he traveled, not all, but most of the time he traveled. But he was, where I really liked Harvey was he was really great because it's just like Todd Van Poppel. You brought up that name, and I thought him and Darson were going to could be superstar pitchers. They had that kind of ability, but mentally they weren't strong enough to do that. I don't know. And I found that out coaching, that there's a lot of players that they got the ability, but it takes, as Catfish used to say, what's in your stomach, what's in your heart, and what's in your mind takes you how far you want to go. And that's why I look at Catfish, and I tell people, Cat, when you say he's from 1 to 10, 10 being a super ability, Cat was probably about a 6 or 7, but he made himself a 10 with what he could think and do, and not as scared to do it out on the mound. And he was great for that. I always used to use him, and I tell Harvey that I wish all would be able to do what Catfish used to be able to do.
Catfish would have been a good motivational speaker for later players.
He was, he would sit and I'd be, helping kids out in the big leagues, like Glenn Abbott and another pitcher there, left-hander, had great arm, but never became great. But Cat would come up to me and say, "Hey, Wes, that guy out there pitching on the other team right now is doing what you're trying to get Todd not to do," and stuff, like that. And Cat was great that way. I mean, he helped me a lot.
He had another career going.
Yeah,
but Wes, when you have a player, and there are guys I've seen when I was on the medical staff with the A's in the '90s, they had a guy by the name of Jim Corsi. He was a great setup guy. And
who's that?
If he had Jim Corsi.
Corsi.
Oh yeah.
But he couldn't close out a game. He just couldn't figure out how to do it. He could get you out in the 8th inning, 7th inning, 8th inning, but don't ask him to close. And people don't understand the mentality that a pitcher has to have, the confidence that they go out and they have to have a short memory if they have a bad outing.
Oh, that's just the way. And I got to tell this story about Catfish. We're playing the Dodgers in the World Series, and we open up in Dodger Stadium. And
74, yeah.
Yeah, and so Catfish was Emin Holtzman and Vida Blue and Blue Moon Odom. So and Alvin said to it, do we change the rotation because we got a couple of days off and stuff like that? And I said, let me go talk to them. I'm going to get the 3 or 4 starters together. Mm-hmm. And they all told me, and Cat was the first one, let's just stay in the same rotation. I'll pitch the 3rd game, and these other guys are ready. But Cat came to me in the 2nd game, in the 9th inning or 8th inning, and Raleigh, we brought him in early, and he was getting tired. And he was going to pitch at home the day after, because he had an off day. He came up to me and said, Wes, I can get one out. I said, Cat, you threw a little bit on the side. He said, no, I can use, if you need somebody, because Raleigh was running out of gas, and we didn't really have a strong right-hander after that. And I went and told Alvin Dark, and Alvin Dark says, have him sneak down to the bullpen by the thing, get his shoes on, and I might use him. And he ended up using him, getting the last out in the 9th inning in Dodger Stadium to win the game. And that's just the way Cat was.
And look how well we did for that.
Beat him 3 out of 4.
Yeah.
Or 4 out of 5, or 4 out of 7.
Mm-hmm.
And they thought that, and I'll just tell you, and I'm going to bring this up now. I can remember the Dodgers as saying, we played Pittsburgh in a playoff. That's like the World Series is over for us now. Baltimore, Oakland, they didn't think we were that tough. Mm-hmm. And Bando and those guys got together and said, hey, we're going to have a meeting get there. And he said, look, don't answer them in the paper. We'll answer them on the field. And they had a meeting, and that's what they talked about, the players.
Oh.
And, of course, we did. We answered them. We beat them 4 out of 7, actually 4 out of 4.
Wow.
But that's just, they were, as I was talking down there last month, they said they did things to try to win. Mm-hmm. And Dick Williams was the guy that made him do that. And they all, for about 5 of them, said he was, to me, the best manager I ever played for. Yeah. And Dick was tough on guys. Dick Williams, he would tell me, hey, I don't care what some of the pitchers get mad at me if I take them out or anything like that. Don't worry about it. Just kind of calm them down, talk to them. If you have a real problem, then bring it to me. Otherwise, I don't care. I don't care what they call me. That's just the way Dick was.
He wasn't into MLB politics, gossip, stuff like that either. He did not listen to it. He was just very focused on winning. And
who he had to win with.
Yes.
And what he had to do. I mean, he wasn't,
Mm-hmm.
Wes,
and I'm not taking anything away from the managers. I'm sure there's managers like that today. But, I mean, that's just the way Dick was.
It's good to know what, a fresh perspective like this.
Yeah.
Like many times.
Wes, when I was a kid, Alvin Dark was the shortstop of the Giants, and
Yep.
I was 5 years old going to the Polo Grounds and watching him. So I just want to know something about Alvin Dark that the typical baseball fan doesn't know. Either his managerial technique or something that, enlighten me, if you would.
Well, I'm going to tell you a story about Alvin Dark. I played for him when he was a manager. Remember, he was a manager of Kansas City.
Yeah, the first time, 60s.
Yes, he managed here. And I'll tell you one thing, none of the players liked him because he was so demanding and he wouldn't let his coaches do anything. If you wanted to throw, they'd have to say, well, you got to wait till Alvin comes out because he didn't believe in coaches.
Mm-hmm.
And he was the most unlike gentleman I ever saw. And that's the first time I met him.
Was he different when he came back?
What?
Was he different when he came back in 74?
That's what I'm going to tell you the story about.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Charlie Finley knew that Dick was going, and he told me he had a couple names, and one of them was Alvin Darch. And I said, Charlie, I played for him when you had a manager, and he don't like coaches or anything. And I said, it's going to be tough for me to coach with him because he won't let the coaches do anything. And so, anyway, it went on. About a month into the season, or into the winter, announced that Alvin Dark would be the next manager of the Oakland A's. And I told my wife, I said, oh boy, this is going to be interesting. About, a month before the season, spring training started, Alvin called me and he said, Wes, you and I are going to go into spring training a week early. And you've been there, you know everybody. We're going to sit down and you give me some of your ideas about what to look for in this club. And I told my wife, I said, well, I'm going down there, but I'm sure Charlie told him what I said about him, Mm-hmm. And went down there, had a great meeting with him, and he changed a different man. Mm-hmm. He was not the same man at all. Anyway, it was a great pleasure. I mean, I really enjoyed being with him. Halfway through the season, and he and I became real good friends. We played cards together and stuff like that. And he told me, he said, Charlie told me what you said about me. And he said, I appreciate that, and I realized that I was a different man now than I was back there. Mm-hmm. And we talked about that, and I really enjoyed being with Alvin. But he was another one. I'll tell you one thing, he was bright on the game. He knew in the innings before, he'd say, if this guy comes up in the 8th inning or 7th inning, and this guy is a starter is struggling, I want this guy to be ready. So he had always won me an inning or two of what he was looking towards. Yeah, and I was very respectful of him, and he did a great job with that club too.
Wow.
And again, he said, I don't care what the players call me or anything, and I had one pitcher that he'd take him out in the 8th inning, and he'd get in the dugout cussing almost. And he'd yell to me, Wes, get out of here. And Alvin heard it, and also Dick, he'd say that with Dick. And he said, why did you take me out? I could do it. I said, the pitcher's name I won't say. I said, look, you got Rollie Fingers coming in. He's the best. I know, but I couldn't finish it. That's just the way they wanted to do their own, but they also realized that. But, Alvin never said nothing. He says, if you have a problem, then let me know. Mm-hmm. And I really, really became real great friends with Alvin Dart. Mm-hmm.
Wow, that is, he's gotten a lot of heat for a lot of different reasons over the years.
Well, I think when I was with him in there, he became a lot, not saying he became more religious man. Mm-hmm. Him and his new wife and stuff, they're very religious.
I know we had dinner with them several times, and he tried to match me up with his stepson, Randy, I think that was his name.
Yes. Yeah.
And his wife thought I wore too much makeup. Oh, gosh.
Yes, she was, but Alvin wasn't, he knew the game, though. I got news for you. He knew the game. Yeah. He knew, he knew when he wanted to take pictures out, and, well, so did Dick. They, they knew what they had. They knew what picture, this guy could do this, stuff like that.
And it was difficult being in the middle of a World Series, consecutive wins.
Oh, yeah, when you got different managers.
Yeah, having to know who to hire because he was familiar with the team.
It took Alvin. That was a tough job to Alvin step in there. It already won one World Series. 72 and 73 too, actually.
Yeah,
and
expectation.
Then we had to go to 74, and we almost made the 75 because Charlie, I remember him telling. He said he told the players, if we win the 75, go to the World Series, I'll make the biggest World Series ring that's ever been made.
Oh, I know. Four-leaf clover. Four-leaf. I know. I remember that so well because I was older and I was working on the tickets. But
the 73 the 74 World Series was a three-leaf clover.
Oh, I know.
And of course, I still have that ring.
That was
there a time when Charlie was in Europe and they were tried to acquire players? I think Fairley was one of them, and maybe McCovey.
That would have been the 60s.
Down the stretch, and they couldn't make the deal, waiting for Charlie.
What?
I seem to remember something. Do you have recall of that?
No, I know nothing about that, and I don't think of the coaches, that we really knew who Charlie was trying to get in trades.
I haven't heard.
We heard about it when it happened.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so sometimes you were just as surprised as the average guy on the street.
Fairley was in the 60s, wasn't it?
Ron Fairley from the Dodgers, yeah. All I can remember we had pinch runners. Charlie he brought in Herb Washington.
Oh, yeah.
And, of course, he was at that reunion, and my wife and I sat and talked to him a lot. It was really interesting talking to him. Yeah, very interesting conversation. He's a very successful man. Now he owns a lot of McDonald's. Herbie does, Washington.
Right.
Yes.
Nice.
Yes. Wes, would you address the pitching injury situation in baseball today? And is it too much work, coddling, not coddling, inning count, pitch counts? You tell me.
This is my theory. Now, I'm not saying it's right theory, but a lot of people are still coaching. They said you would never have been allowed to do what you do. I was a believer because I came up under Paul Richards. Run. I can remember we'd go out there and beat a couple games, get 1 or 2 runs. The pitchers would always say, "Okay, boys, we're the ones going to get punished." And Alvin would tell Harry McKean, Paul Richards, go out and run the pitchers harder tonight. We always said, we take the punishment for the hitters because we had to run. So I was proud to be a runner. And when I became a pitching coach, I believed that you had to run, get your whole body in shape, to get your arms moving. And now they don't believe in that. They're more on weights. And I wasn't a weight man. Not that I'm saying it's bad. It's probably better for hitters. But I think my opinion was they don't run them anymore. And the number of pitches,
Don't they need to be thinner to run and not be as bulky?
Well, I don't know if it's thinner, be bulky, but I think you gotta have good rotation. Your arm speed is as important to a pitcher as bat speed is to a hitter. I mean, they talk about hitters have great bat speed. Some of the greatest hitters they clock the bat going through the strike zone at 100 some odd. But I think as a pitcher, you got to have great arm speed, and that's one of the things that I taught, and I was taught when I was coming up, that to get that arm speed out in front of you. And I think by lifting weights and all that other stuff, I'm not a weight man, and I may be contradicting a weight man, but I think that throws the speed of the arm down. And that to me is, and I can remember a lot of pitchers, coaches say, he doesn't have very good arm speed.
Well, Wes, what do you think now? When years ago, if a guy could go up to 95, they weren't that many guys, and now you see the kids coming in, they're throwing 95 to 99, 100 miles an hour. And look at the A's this year; they had 4 guys go down with Tommy John surgery. The Angels had 3.
All the clubs do.
Yeah, it's unbelievable.
And I don't know the cause of it, but I'm still a believer. And I know I had the University of Washington coach who was for 16 years, Bob McDonald, and I were good friends. And he was a weight nut. And he used to, when I was coaching the Mariners, you got to do more weight with your pitchers. And of course, he and I go round and round and round, but good friends. And I said, no, I don't believe in that. I want arm speed, wrist speed. Get the arm out there in front of you. I don't want to bulk it up and slow it down. That's the players, their speed now is, they're better athletes. They throw ball harder. But all I hear on TV, you threw it this fast. I had 3 things in baseball as a pitcher I taught. Location. And you watch the pitchers that have great location all the time are the more successful pitchers than the guy throwing 90 miles an hour or plus but doesn't make quality pitches all the time.
That's quotable too. I like
yeah,
that.
and that's just was my opinion. You know, that, you know, and don't get me wrong, speed is a great asset, but she still comes location.
Yeah, Wes, let me take you back a little bit. When you were in the minors with Baltimore, and who told you you were going to be called up to the majors, and what was the situation like?
Well, I was in Miami when I got cut. Well, I made the club out of spring training in '59. I played in '56 minor league baseball. '57, '58, Uncle Sam said I had to go in the service for 2 years. So I went in the service for 2 years because I went to college, had a deferment, and I had my obligation was to go in the military. So I went 2 years, came out in '59, went spring training with Baltimore for a month. And that's when they could carry 28 players instead of 25 for a month. And so I was
first month of the season.
Yes. And I was on, then I got sent out. But when I was in Miami, I got called up in, actually it was the middle of '60. And, Al Vincent was the coach at Miami International League, and my wife was due within 2 weeks. And Lee McPhail, you know, he knew all that. They knew all about our families. And he called Al Vincent and he said, tell Wes within a week he's coming to the big leagues, and we want you to put him in the bullpen, but don't tell the press why we want him in the bullpen instead of being a starter. But he said have him get his wife ready, either leave her there to get her set up to have the baby or get her to Baltimore. And, of course, I was fortunate the doctor says, I'll give you permission to get her on a plane and go up there. And that's how I knew I was going to big leagues in a week when I started relieving.
By the way, Wes has a great wife, Bev, who's just beautiful, and they're still going strong.
And my son was born the night after I won my first game on July 31st, 1960 against Cleveland. Relief, and he was born the next day on August 1st, 1960. I can remember his in Baltimore.
What a great story. How about that?
Yeah. I don't want to keep long. Wes has a family obligation to be out at 5, so I don't want to keep him too long.
Okay. Hey, this was absolutely terrific, Wes. I hope we can have you back. I'm almost...
Anytime, just call me. If I'm free, I'll go. You know, I'll do it. No problem. I enjoy talking. I talk a lot now when I watch the games on TV. I'm the manager, general manager, farm director, psychologist, trainer, the worker and everything. And you know what? I'm second guessing that TV all the time, and I never get an answer back.
Yeah,
okay.
When you start getting answers, then you have to worry, though, Wes.
Yeah, because I'm not always saying I'm right.
One question.
And you know, let me bring up one more thing. I'm going to bring up as a coaching. I always used to say, I tell the pitchers, I'm going to give you different ideas and things. You take what you think will help you and do it. You don't have to do everything I say because you may not understand it or don't understand it, but try some things that you think will help you. And I think the pitchers appreciated that. You know, it wasn't, you got to do it this way or else forget it. I never taught that way.
Well, however you did it with grace and success. So
and had fun doing it.
And
I enjoyed it.
And you worked for the Mariners too at one time, didn't you?
I was a pitching coach up here, the first pitching coach in '77 for 6 years.
Wow, that's a second Seattle team.
Yeah, Wes, I've got one question for you, and I know you've been following the A's. What's your take on this year's A's? Do you think they can win the division?
You know, it's really tough now. And this is my own opinion. I just think that because there's so many teams, that a lot of the kids coming up now are not ready for the big leagues. I mean, you know, he went from 16 teams to 32. That takes a lot of players, and there's a lot of players now. Football, soccer, you know, basketball. There's I just think that baseball the pitching is tough, and that's the name of the game, pitching and defense. It's always been my theory.
Okay.
Well, the A's got great defense. They got a third baseman that's going to win a gold.
Right, that's what I say. So you look at that, and the pitchers, I watched them last 3 games because they played Seattle.
Right.
And their pitching has been, both sides of pitching has been, very good at times.
Yeah.
And their center fielder, they've got this center fielder with an arm that he came out of nowhere. He's got one of the best arms I've ever seen in the outfield. He's tremendous.
That's what made Seattle so good. They got a lot of unknown names. They got a few, Stars and Cruz and Cano, who just came back, and Seager.
Would you speak to that would you speak to the PED situation and your thoughts on that?
On drugs?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I never was involved with it, and they just started it open, when I was there with Conseco, McGuire.
Mid-80s.
And Tony Phillips. But I've talked to a lot of doctors, and they say drugs are good if they're used to help heal you. And I think a lot of guys use the drugs to heal themselves. And I know, because they play so much and, everything like that. I don't know much about drugs.
There were things going on in the 50s and 60s, Willie's Red Juice and...
oh, yeah.
We were...
The thing when
They had the greenies.
That's what I say. When I came up with Baltimore, I can remember a couple players said, "Hey, if anybody needs any greenies, they were a pep-up pill, is what they were.
Oh,
now the new drugs, I don't know what they, I don't know much. I hate to see them, but if they need them to get themselves well, then doctors give you drugs when your kid's sick, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So if the player's not feeling good.
I always thought it was like the building muscle, the steroid stuff is what people were talking about.
Well, some of it is true, Nancy, but it's the human growth hormone they were using to help recover.
Right. Human growth, that's a different drug, I think.
Yeah. They're helping.
Right.
Yeah, people don't realize.
But I'm not much into drugs. I don't want to criticize anybody. If they take them, you like to think they're taking them because they got an injury or something. They're trying, because a lot of ball players play with injuries, and you're going to have injuries with the number of games they play, the travel,
I know my dad and Charlie called it everything dope. Everything was dope, and I just wondered what is dope. But I know that they would even be alarmed if they heard a player was on an antibiotic. They'd want to know why. So I know that.
Yeah.
Probably
I'm not much. I just hate to see it happen, and and I knew one player that took it on Oakland. They did the trainer, not a special man, came in, gave him dope because he had a bad leg, and they were trying to heal it.
Mm-hmm.
And I learned a lot that through him.
Wow.
Wes, do you notice an upgrade in defense, both double play combinations and outfield defense in today's game? Do you see some skills that amaze you?
Oh yeah, unbelievable. Well, they're better athletes. They're quicker. They do things a lot faster. You name it. Look at football. Look at these big guys. They're great athletes. And baseball the same way. They're better athletes. They can do a lot of things, but you control it, And the defense now is so important that they can, and they play, the shifts has gotten big in baseball. And that's, I can remember Dick Williams said, hey, if they're pulling the ball, hit a ball the other way once in a while. Just show them you can do it.
Yeah. Hey, Wes, do you know what I like most about this interview? You didn't once begrudge players earning what they earn today. You didn't kvetch about, in my day, if I came up, I'd have been making this much money today. You don't think about it in those
Wes
terms.
is a very positive person.
No, I just look at it. I was happy to make what I made, and I was happy to spend my time up there. And everything now is, it's just the way the world is.
You're a lover of life. I like that.
You're a lover of life, and this has been absolutely uplifting. Thank you again for coming.
All right. Thank you, and enjoy. Call me anytime.
All right.
Okay.
Thank you, Wes Stock, Nancy Finley, Jerry Feitelberg. I'm Ralph Tyko, the weak link of it all at the Comfortably Zoned Radio Network. You guys were great today. Thank you very much for a wonderful, enlightening time. Enjoy, everybody. We'll be back soon. Adios.
Bye-bye now.